Another edition of Sporty Monday, the 25th day of March 2024. And of course, all talk is about the WRC. Naivasha is ready to host that spectacular. And of course, we'll be going deep into that. And of course, Leopards at 60. They are counting the cash. 10 million from the president, 2 million from the governor, is it? Dr. Dan Shikanda is in the house. We will be putting him on the spot. Leopards at 60. Are there any hits? Are there any misses? What's the way forward for the limping Leopard? Dan Shikanda will be answering that. You don't want to miss it. And of course, Harambee Stars in Malawi, they hit 4. Past the host. Is this a sign of better things to come? And of course, we'll be going to Bonn, Germany, where Jacob today will be breaking it down for us. With his namesake Jacob here, we will be delving into the German football and, of course, the big EPL game coming up next weekend. The Gunners versus the City. How will it go? We will be giving you those details. My name is Isaac Swiller. Welcome to the program. We have a beautiful show lined up for you. But first things first, let me introduce my panelists who will be keeping this conversation going today. To my immediate right is, of course, John Kenda. Hujambo kaka?
Kofiti.
Hali gani?
Lonely top of the table.
Lonely at the top?
Yes.
But too close. You can't really just stamp with that, can you?
Lazima.
Nah.
We've beaten teams that denied us the title last season, so iko sawa. West Ham walipata 5, City wakapigwa, United usual customers. So I don't really fear Man City.
Okay.
I don't really fear them.
That's the gospel.
They need to fear us.
Okay.
Yes.
We'll be getting into that. And of course, Kinywa, hali gani?
Mzuri sana. How are you?
Vasha?
Vasha is here at last. The rally has already begun because today is the first day of Recce. The teams will have time to go through the routes, and it will be a very busy week for the drivers and, of course, the organizers. So, and a very important one for that matter, because all eyes are on, the organizers to see how this edition of the rally pans out, because it's not been very smooth as compared to the previous editions. Of course, that will be our top story, and we'll be going deep into that shortly. Zita, how are you?
I'm very okay. Yes. I really love the way Arsenal fans have that confidence of saying that they are only on top of the table. And talking about that, I know Isia is looking at me, and Isia is an Arsenal fan. I know you are, Kianda.
Of course, they say the success of a man depends on confidence.
Too much Arsenal here today. Hey. That's why they have confidence, talking that, we are there, those are the bitter teams, what and what. We will see what will happen next week. And then Basha is here. And then again, African Games is Meisha. So a lot of positive things from the Kenyan athletes, and Angela, and again, the boxing, 17 years old, who won the gold. So for me, we are ready for the Olympics.
Ready for the Olympics?
Yes.
Okay. Jacob, how are you?
I'm fine. Yesterday, something very exciting happened, Swila. For a long time, I've not seen cash money. Cash money inashinda kutoshea kwa mkono.
Dan Shikanda need some security.
I saw it personally. That was good. Ingo at 60. The finale was so good. I enjoyed watching some of the players of yesteryears.
Like the legends.
Okwemba Charles. And I was like, this guy can play football again if he's put in the current English squad.
He can do some magic.
He can do something. I was happy. And really, I think people saw the kind of unity that came with Gor Mahia, and Shaban also coming to support. And I think now a leap into the future, we can start discussing how the numbers of the fans can count, because we have not seen that much. Then again, I need to mention that really it was so exciting in the midweek when Angela Okutoi did what she had to do. And really, Kenyans have just shown that we can dominate anywhere in the world. When it comes to sport, it's just a question of nurturing and making sure that the best are put out there.
Absolutely. The best are put out there, and of course, the most comprehensive sport show begins now. And today we're asking you, What are your memories of the WRC Safari Rally? Some of you were just 10 years when we had this, some were 8 and so on and so forth. But it is back, we're asking you, what are your memories of the WRC Safari Rally? Of course, this week it will be vrooming off in Naivasha. The conversation, keep it going, hashtag Sporty Monday. X us at Citizen TV Kenya at Isaac Swila. We are also on Facebook. SMS lines are open, T2 422. Start texting and of course Xing or tweeting. We will be sampling your feedback shortly. Let's begin there, Kenya. You are our lead guy on this bit. Sure. As we head to Naivasha, you've talked of Reke. Basically, you've said the hype hasn't been as big as the last 2-3 editions, but probably what do you attribute this to as we begin this conversation?
It's a few factors that have come into play. First things first, remember last year we had the change of guard at the Kenya Motorsport Federation. Phineas Kimathi, who's served for quite some time, left. And then we had Maina Muturi taking over as the president of the Kenya Motorsport Federation. But what we saw was not a very smooth transition from Kimathi to Maina Muturi. There still are teething problems, so to call it, because the new office took so long to get things going. When you look at even the organization of the local sporting activities or the local rallying activities, I'm talking about the Bambino, the autocross, it was not very smooth. That transitioned now to the organization of the Safari Rally. Why? Because this edition, they had shorter planning period. Because remember, the WC Safari Rally was returning back to its traditional Easter weekend, as opposed to when we were having it in June. So time has not been very long in terms of planning, and that has even eaten into what the organizers were planning to do. We also saw a move by the Ministry of Sports trying to join or merge the local organizing committee and the steering committee. That I don't think really has worked as it was supposed to, because of the limitation of time again. Because this committee was launched, I think, 2-3 weeks ago. That's a very short period of time to get things running and to get everything into place. We've seen some delays. For example, we were late on marking the routes as it is supposed to be. The routes are supposed to be marked by Friday before the weekend, so that now the drivers on Monday can have a taste of what exactly they're going to expect for the rally. Mm-hmm. The recce is supposed to start today. Mm-hmm. Most of the international drivers arrived over the weekend. They spent the weekend at Masai Mara just to get a feel of what Kenya has to offer away from rally. It's an opportunity to sell Kenya in terms of our wildlife and of course everything else that we have to offer. Mm-hmm. But now after that, after all the enjoyment in Masai Mara, it's now down to business. Mm-hmm. Drivers will now have today and tomorrow to do the recce. Recce is very important in rallying because this is when now the core drivers write pace notes. These are very important to direct the drivers along these routes, and we have 18 stages. So to go through 18 stages for all these drivers, you get to see that most of these local drivers are not going to have enough time, especially the local ones, because the P1 drivers or the Rally 1 drivers are given priority to do the recce first. So that disadvantages our local drivers because they're not given enough time on the routes to go through 18 stages and write pace notes and have everything in place is not an easy job. So it's really a lot of factors that have come into play, but I hope we get it right, because this is very important, because getting it right means we continue to be the only leg in Africa. Remember, there's nowhere else we have the WRC in the African continent. Kenya has been given that privilege. I hope the people doing all this understand the importance
and the magnitude of it.
The magnitude.
Absolutely. It's here as maybe you pick the cue from where Kenya has left it. And actually, we are getting these thanks to the lobbying and what former or retired President Uhuru Kenyatta did. And this rally came after 19-year hiatus.
Absolutely. And I think Kenya has really put it so well that transitions that we have seen in the committee, in everything, then have affected the preparations, because you look at the kind of changes that have been done as far as the organizing committee is concerned, and then you wonder whether all those changes were necessary, especially coming at a time when when we know the calendar has been shifted again, and now, you know, after Monte Carlo, after Rally Sweden, then we come to Kenya. It has been something else. Now, I think one of the biggest lessons that we learned here, because even just last week we have seen somebody resigning and then somebody being resisted again, it just tells you the kind of heat that is inside the house. And I don't think it serves us so well. It should be a lesson. I have known one thing, that anytime a sport or event that involves big money in Kenya, there will always be a problem somewhere. And I hope that people are learning this time around, because like King has just put it, remember, it's just in Kenya that we are hosting this event, and therefore if we cannot put our house in order and then we affect the preparation, that will be bad. Am I pessimistic going to the weekend action? No. I believe that even with some of those misses we have seen already, there is still room to correct ourselves, and we have a real good party going to the weekend action. Swila.
Zita, your thoughts on this?
Oh, I know the sponsorship is going to be unveiled today. And I hope everything goes well, because during the week, as again, Kenya has said, we've been having a little bit of a slow. And talking about the hype inakujanga na sisi wa Kenya. In the next, it can be hyped even in 3 days. You know, on social media in 3 days, 2 days. So for me, the hype, I know it will be there. And people will go to Vasha. And Vasha here, we come.
Okay. Kianda.
You know, hey, wanasema lisemolo lipo kama lipo laja. I just have a feeling there's a big story than whatever we're seeing. As Isia said, any sport that involves big money, there are a lot of interest there. The only thing that I'm urging them, whoever is involved in it, don't wash your dirty linens wakati wageni wako.
Absolutely.
Kwa sababu after 19 years, lobbying for this rally to return to Kenya wasn't a joke. And it's the only leg that is in Africa. What makes you think that South Africa is not interested? Morocco is not interested. I mean, you're talking about countries that are passionate about sports. So wakati imerudi hivi, alafu sasa tunaanza kusikia vituko zingine zinatokea chini ya maji. Did you see that clip of the sports CS Sababu Namwamba said, when something hits the fans, it will hit me. And he said that he's going to take charge of organizing this event from Thursday last week. That will tell you. Hiyo msoma hata hiyo tone alikuwa nayo akiongea. Alikuwa like, nyinyi kuna kitu mnanimesa hapa. Kuna kitu mnajaribu kufanya enye infraishi na itafurahisha mafans. For CS to come and say that sasa mimi nataka take control ya hii kitu. It should tell you that kuna watu wanaosha dirty linen hapa chini. Sasa ameona time inafika, watu wanataka kuwa ready waone safari rally, alafu vitu zinadelaywa hapa na pale. Money.
And it's unfortunate, Swila, that's a joke. Even from the CS, with all the passion we saw in that clip that Ken is alluding to, that still is saying that I want to take charge the last minute. Because I believe that had he been in charge totally from the word go, maybe some of these misses would not have been there.
Yes.
I remember before the last year's leg, we hosted actually Dr. Karuri. I think the top doctor credited even by FIE. And there were issues even about, there was an attempt even to remove him. You see, remember that incident when this rally driver really rolled? Yeah. This is the guy who is like trained and accredited to go there and make sure that if something happens, then, you know, we are set. Now, you hear about a person who has been so experienced, trained even in Russia and all that, then somebody attempts to remove them. There has been a lot of things happening, and I think, like Kera said, for the sake of what we have this week, we just need to tone down, but after next week, then questions need to be answered. Yeah. What was happening?
Absolutely. Questions need to be answered, Isia says. And of course, let's give the WRC Safari Rally more context. And Alex Kinywa is on standby at the touchscreen or the scoreboard, ready to break it down for us. Kinywa?
Thank you, Swila. And as you all know, the government is the main sponsor of the WRC Safari Rally. And being the main sponsor, they give the biggest sponsorship. Now, under the Kenyan government, under the previous government, which was under President Uhuru Kenyatta, the government pumped in northwards of 1.5 billion shillings into Rally last year. Now, this year's sponsorship deal has not yet been announced, and we hope that it's going to be made clear today. But as things stand, there is much more money expected to be given away from the private sponsors that we know are interested. We're talking about the likes of KCB and other sponsors who, over time, they've, come in and to sponsor rally. Now, this year's edition is going to be very different because for the first time, we are not going to be having the defending champion come to defend the title. Toyota's Sebastian Ogier is not competing in this year's edition. Of course, he's doing bit part type of rallying, the same as Kale Rovanpera, who is also off Toyota. But Kale Rovanpera is going to be here. Remember, Kale Rovanpera won in 2021, which was the first edition of the WSC Safari Rally. Ogier is not going to be competing, as I've said, because of he's taken a sabbatical. He's racing only on the European legs. Now, who are we looking at? Because most of the times Kenyans hear very foreign names. We hear Sebastian Ogier, we talk about Kale Rovanpera, who are international drivers. But locally, Kenyans are going to be focusing on some of the drivers who in the previous editions have done very well. For example, we have Karan Patel, who is Kenya's sensational driver right now. He's the African Rally champion in 2023. He competed in the full leg and, of course, won the championship. Carl Flash Tundo, who is a 7-time Safari Rally winner, is back this season again. Remember, last season, he competed as part of the local organizing committee. He was the chairman of that committee, and he's back this time. Of course, he's already left his role at the local organizing committee. We also looking at Jasmine Chana. They call him the Iceman. He's the current champion, the Kenya National Rally champion. Last year, of course, he's also competing this year. We also have Nikhil Sachania, who is KCB-sponsored paraplegic driver, who is going to be racing in this year's edition. Now, looking at other things that are going to be at play in this rally this year, there's too much talk on the government's involvement and, of course, the sponsorship of different drivers in this year's edition. But before we get to the Talanta all-women crew, let's talk about a few other drivers who are going to be making the bar on the rally this edition. We have Akif Virani, who will be driving a Skoda Fabia. We have Issa Mwari, who's driving a Mitsubishi Evolution 10, and he's going to be competing in this year's edition. Of course, Issa Mwari is a former two-wheel drive champion here in Kenya. Now, looking at the government's sponsorship, last year, the government launched a plan to sponsor an all-women crew to compete in the WSC Safari Rally. And of course, they've done it again this year. There are 3 women who are going to be competing in this year's edition. Tinashe Gatimu is the 19-year-old rallying sensation and, of course, daughter to veteran rally driver Caroline Gatimu, who is going to be navigating her for the 2nd year running in this year's edition. We have Pauline Shehu, who is a veteran rally driver and, of course, a media personality. She's going to be back on the wheels again this year after last year's edition. Jennifer Malik, I call her the Beauty and the Beast. She's competing. She's well known in autocross circles, but she made a Safari Rally bow last year. She's also competing again under the Talanta Hela all-women crew umbrella. Other ladies or other drivers that will be looking at this edition, of course, I've talked about the likes of Karan Patel, the likes of Jasmine Chana, the Iceman, Akif Virani driving a Skoda Fabia, and of course, Carl Flash Tudo. It will be important to note that the Skoda Fabia, which is an R5 category car that Karan Patel is going to be driving, was formerly owned by Carl Flash Tundo, which he sold to Karan Patel this year to help him compete in the Rally 2 classification. Issa Mwari is driving a Mitsubishi Evolution 10, as I said. Jeremiah Waume is going to be making his bow with a Ford Fiesta, the same as Hamza Anor. You remember these two were part of the FIA Rally Star program that was started to help nurture young drivers in Kenya, of course, to participate in the WSC Safari Rally. Nikhil Sachani is driving a Mitsubishi Evolution 10. And at the same time, you see Josiah Kariuki will be driving a Subaru Impreza. Edward Maina also driving a Subaru Impreza. Andrew Mwirori is driving a Mitsubishi Evolution 10. It's very important to know that Andrew Mwirori is not only a rally driver, but he's a top mechanic. He's the guy who's been working on Jennifer Malik's car and fine-tuning, the nitty-gritties of having the car ready. And of course, alongside a lady who is very passionate about motorsport, she's known as McKenna on the rally circles, and she's a very good engineer. Ishmael Azeri is driving a Subaru Impreza this year, of course, after driving an Evolution 10 last year. Tina Shegatim is going to be making a second bar on the WSC Safari Rally, and Pauline Shegu will be driving a Subaru Impreza. Lisa Christopherson is a very notable name when it comes to rallying in Kenya. She's the woman who started the Lionesses rallying team here in Kenya, which is an all-women crew, and her main aim was to help elevate rallying, especially amongst women. Now, this year's edition is going to be very special for Lisa because she battled successfully. She battled cancer successfully, and she's going to be, you know, rallying for a cause this season. She says it is good for people to know that you can go through such an horrendous experience and also come back in rallying and also do well. So we'll be watching out Lisa Christopherson and what she does in rallying this year. It proves to be a very exciting time for rallying here in Kenya. Of course, the top 5 drivers, I'm going to pick out 5 drivers that we will be, you know, watching out throughout the rally. First is Kale Rovanpera, who is going to be driving the Toyota GR Yaris. Of course, he's a 2021 Safari Rally winner, as I said earlier. And Esa-Pekka Lappi won Rally Sweden 2024. Rally Sweden is the second edition of the WSC calendar, which was held, I think, 3 weeks ago, before now the Safari Rally, which is, of course, an ice sort of a rally. So Esa-Pekka Lappi of Hyundai is going to be very, is in form and is going to be one of the drivers to watch. Of course, Handy have also Otanak, who came back from M Sport last year. And those are the main 3 drivers when it comes to the, you know, P1 cars that we're going to be looking at. Locally, our hopes will be on Jasmine Chana, Karan Patel, and Carl Flash Tudor. That's it, Swila.
Before you go, and real quick, looking at the top 5 drivers, you have it there. And of course, we don't have Sebastian Ogier, who is the defending champion, not competing. Yeah. Whom do you probably tip to win this edition of the WRC Safari, Kenya?
The 2024 WSC has been a very close affair. Remember, Kale Rovanpera did not compete in Rally Monte Carlo. He came back in Rally Sweden and had his own fair share of problems. But Oitanak and Esa-Pekka Lappi of Hyundai have been very good this season. But of course, Kale Rovanpera has been very good on the Safari Rally. On the last 3 editions, he's always been around, you know, the top 3 drivers. Because in 2021, he won the title. In 2022, he lost to Sebastian Ogier. And of course, Ogier has won it twice, with Kale winning once. Toyota have performed very well, and they sort of have an advantage because it's more or less like a home team. They do their research earlier. They're locally based. Of course, they invest a lot of resources in making sure these things are, you know, put in order. So it's going to be a very close battle, so to say. But one of the things that has made Handy, you know, very unreliable over time is their reliability issues in terms of suspensions, dampers. They've always suffered with, you know, broken suspensions. And I hope, this being the 4th edition of the Safari Rally, of course, on the WSC calendar, they've learned their lesson, and it's going to be a very close battle between Toyota and Hyundai.
Kinyo, before I bring it to the floor, one final question from me is, yes. Last year we saw Team Toyota actually sweep the deck. That was the dominant force. But look at the drivers representing us in the national category. Most of them are Team Subaru, Anelka team, and so forth. Probably help us understand this. Why the choice of Subaru and not Toyota, which was the dominant machine?
The reason as to where you see the likes of Kale Rovanpera, of course, Toyota is one of the manufacturers. So for manufacturer teams, they have their own team. Subaru is, I would say, Subaru and Mitsubishi Evolution Edition are the most reliable cars on the Kenyan gravel. That's why you see most of these drivers choosing to use a Subaru. And for the question of not having Toyota, it's a very expensive affair. For example, that's why you see we do not have any Kenyans driving a P1 car, which is a conversation we'll have to you know, to understand why we do not have a Kenyan there yet. But it's very hard and of course very competitive to have a Kenyan driving you know, a P1 car, and it's a very expensive affair, as I've said. But Subaru and Mitsubishi Evolution Edition have been the most reliable, especially on the Kenyan gravel.
Thank you, Kinywa. Maybe to the floor.
Alex, you know, rally is a very expensive sport. Yes. We've had this conversation for quite some time. I just want you to break it down for us, what it takes to build those competitive cars, the Ford, the Hyundais, and the Toyotas, the difference between those cars and the ones that our Kenyan drivers drive.
That's a very good question, Kianda. The difference is, for drivers, for example, the Hyundais, the M Sport Ford, and Toyotas, they do not contribute anything to the making of these cars. These are manufacturers who make their own cars. When you look at our local drivers, for example, I was with Jennifer Malik as she was working on a car last week, and you look at the kind of expenses that go into preparing a rally car. You're talking about northwards of 4.5 million shillings that they have to get from their pocket. You've not talked about the kind of things that they now need on regular basis. For example, a K4 tire that they are supposed to use in rallying, one tire right now costs around 55,000 shillings. It's a regulation that you're supposed to have not less than 20 tires for you to compete for the whole leg. So you're talking about over 1 million shillings just on tires alone. And if you do not have a sponsor, then Canada, it's going to be very hard for you to afford this kind of money. That's the difference.
Okay, thank you there. Kinyua, of course, our lead reporter on Matters Motorsports, breaking it down there on the WRC. And of course, that's the biggest story this week. And our crew are all out just to bring you the latest and the best coverage of that event. So you don't want to miss that. And this week, of course, since last week, the big cats, the Leopards, or Ingwe, if you so wish, have been having lots of celebration to mark their 60th anniversary. But is there any reason to smile? Zita Jimoi went out, interacted with the Leopards fans, and this is what she found out.
Still celebrating FC Leopards at 60. Na leo tuko wapi? Camp Toyoyo, and inter-branches matches are ongoing. And this is part of marking the 60 years of FC Leopards existing in football here in Kenya. And today, as you know, Fan Zone, we have to go and talk to the fans so that they can tell us their feeling about what is happening, what do they expect after 60 years.
Kama shabiki wa FC Leopards, I'm happy kwamba tuna celebrate our 60th anniversary, which is our birthday. And we are really happy because this far, sio rahisi. Tumepitia mambo mingi, lakini tunajua mbele ni kuzuri.
Tunafurahia sana kuja kushabikia timu yetu, timu kubwa, Eastern Central Africa, Ingwe ya Matere, and we are hoping more to achieve.
Ingwe imetuandalia under branches, they are ongoing under branches to quarter final size. We celebrate these teams of ours. At least mashabiki Kenya wakijitokezea kuwa na support local football. Sometimes it will be better.
Majina naitwa kama Daktari Pale Munyo Kwembata, AFC Leopards Ongatarongai branch. Narudisha shukrani kwanza kwa NKFC kutufandilia kitu kama hizi kama fans. Tumejituma, tumeleta teams, zimefanya the best. So tuna learn. Kauna tukananga player grao, sasa imekuwa ngumu hapa.
Okay, sasa hiyo nini 60 ilikuja tu ya walisema madems wakuwe hapo. So sijui ni nini ilifanyika wakatoa nini ya madems. But pia sisi tunaomba tupewe chances ya kucheza ball.
I know it will be countrywide, na kila county itakuwa inafanya celebration ya FC Leopards because ni timu ambayo inashabikiwa nchi mzima na Afrika mzima.
Fans, let's support local football. Si kwenda kila saa weekend kusangilia Arsenal au Manchester. Mimi ni fan pia wa Arsenal, lakini let's be kiwanja to support local football.
Kama wewe si fan wa FC, sijui unashabikia timu gani tena? Naona sasa tumekuwa at 60 years, si rahisi, si mchezo kwa game. So we are hoping for the best. Najua sasa tumerudi, fan base imerudi. Na next season, Ingwe is the team to watch.
From the top management, wakaze kamba, tuache corruption kwa FC yetu. Timu ni moja na ni FC Leopards.
Tuko na hii moral tuko nayo. Let's come together. Let's participate actively in matters that is based on FC Leopards to push, to endelee engage others so that to grow football ya Kenya, especially FC Leopard team. Tunataka tuiweke pale ile level iko in the other teams of Africa.
Ukiwa fan wa Shabana nenda support Shabana. Ukiwa fan wa Tusker nenda support Tusker. Ukiwa FC kuja to support FC. Na Gor the same was to promote local football and talent.
Hakuna timu iko na fans kama FC kwa EPL. Mimi sijui kama KPL bila ligi, bila fans ya FC haingekuwa.
Hapa miaka 60 sasa na tunataka kuenda corporate. Hatutaki mambo ya kuchangisha pesa. Sasa ni tunachapa tukiendanga na vikombe tutachukua. FC oye!
Season we are coming. Tunakuja na ubaya na Gor Mahia umetushikia hapo juu sana. Is our time.
Hii ni FC Leopards.
As you can hear, next season is for FC Leopards. See, season ya Arsenal. Wamesema ni season ya FC Leopards. And this is the Fan Zone on Sporty Monday. The Fan Zone on Sporty Monday.
Fan Zone on Sport Monday.
Yeah.
Of course, that's Zita Jimoy interacting with Ingwe fans at the weekend as they celebrate 60th birthday. And of course, to help us go deep into that or give more perspective is Dr. Dan Shikanda. He's an ex-international. He played for Harambee Stars in his heydays and also turned prominently for AFC Leopards. And today he's here to shed more light. And of course, we're going to ask him all the hard questions you want to hear. Daktari, karibu sana.
Asante.
Hi, you're good to have you here again.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here. Although jealous, you've spent 3 hours on Safari Rally. I hope you'll give me enough time.
It's not Daktari, come on. Anyway, first question, do you still, are you still a medic? Do you still practice that, or now you're all full-time into football?
I'm full-time into football, focused to try and be part of the solution on our ailing football, more so at the club level. And I'm happy and determined that we are getting somewhere as a football fraternity in Kenya.
Before we go into the thrust of the interview, the question on everyone's lips is, Daktari, around 15 million you were given in cash yesterday. Is that money safe? Is that money safe?
More than safe. The budget was, in fact, I really wish you could have worked on a budget of 20 million. I don't know why we decided to work on a budget of 15 million and raised 15 million in
cash. But it's better than nothing. It wasn't...
Yeah. It's better than nothing.
Yeah.
But you see, we were focusing on FC at 60.
Yes.
And we said we need to get everybody involved. And it was an interesting time because people have not been focusing on what is happening in these clubs. More so, I'll talk about FC. But at least it was a hit because we brought the country to a standstill. We got the attention of the head of state. We got the attention of all key stakeholders in sport in this country. And I'm sure now the hard work begins now.
And the number one stakeholder, rather the second stakeholder that they play is the fan. And the fan is asking, how are you going to use the monies you got yesterday? Probably you can give us a breakdown.
The monies we got yesterday was, in fact, was used before even it came. Because when you have a budget of 15 million, and our main worry was maybe if it doesn't come. At times things happen. And we had decided to involve everybody. And the genesis of FC at 60 is by the way, I got a good word from this studio, lonely. Some of us were very lonely in trying to run football. And the best part came when we brought the country to a standstill because we said, why don't we tell people what is actually ailing our football? Our football is actually collapsing because all of us don't take, we assume Swila has taken responsibility. And at the end of the day, we find out that no one is actually working on the nitty-gritties that need to be put in place to work. For example, I'm happy with the government. The current government, they are focusing on infrastructure. We have been having a very big gap in infrastructure in this country. No stadiums, no playing surface, no nothing.
Nothing. And actually, mentioning that now that you've brought it up, sometime back, we saw you with the Prime Cabinet Secretary, Mudavadi, and he handed a check of around 600, 700K, if I'm not wrong, to go towards paying the land rates at Kasarani.
Yes.
The question fans of Ingwe have been asking since independence. At one point, you had a land donated to you together with Gor Mahia in Embakasi.
Yes.
That land, because the then leadership did not follow up, went into the hands of grabbers or private developers.
Nope.
Apartments were put there.
Nope.
Is it there? Sure.
The land is there.
Why haven't you
developed it? There's nothing that has been put up there. And that's why I'm saying it is important.
But if you're saying it's there, Daktari, the last we had was from your counterpart, Rachir, was saying they can't trace that land. Then two, there's the question of the land in Kasarani. All these haven't been developed, but you tell us the Kasarani land is available.
Is there?
Then why haven't you?
Maybe Gor Mahia was saying they can't trust that land because they had not done paperwork. When I came into office, my first assignment was to try and see whether that land is there. And we went to land's office, we went to survey, we found the lands were there. In fact, we started chasing them together with Gor Mahia. So what happened, there were some changes when Ardhi Sasa came into force because the lands were empty and they're still empty up to now. Those lands were put under Sports Kenya. Yeah, they're in the jurisdiction of Sports Kenya. Nothing has been built there. There are no flats there. The lands are just empty. Since that day, Moi gave us those lands. We have actually processed those papers. That's where the cabinet prime secretary, Honorable Musalia Mudavadi, paid for us the standard premium of 633,000. And then Gor Mahia even, they have paid theirs. And as we speak now, we have been trying to push, but because we could not now get a second title because they are under the jurisdiction of Sports Kenya, we can only maybe go for a lease. So plans are underway, advanced stage, to make sure that all that is completed. We have actually spent some money to try and make sure that those lands are registered under our names, both FC Leopards.
Plans are underway, actually, has been the tagline everybody has been talking about. Can you today tell the Ingwe nation when are they likely to see results? When could Ingwe have their own training ground? They stop paying, is it 20,000 or 10,000 you pay every time you use a facility? Every time you go to use Nyayo, you're paying between 70 and 100,000 to host your matches there. These are monies that could go probably into doing something meaningful in the club if you had your own stadium.
Yes, and it's unfortunately 60 years down the line.
Sure.
We don't have the most crucial infrastructure that we as a club were supposed to be having. So let me not preempt a lot of things. I am sure in the next few months, 1 or 2, everything will be finalized. We have actually brought this to the attention of the highest office, and as I just said, plans are underway to complete this. Gor Mahia are aware of what is happening, and Shaban also being one of the biggest club in this country, biggest community club, we want them to come to the party. So if we can have FC Gor Mahia and Shabana having their affordable home, their affordable housing, I am sure the infrastructure that the government is making in Interlanda Sports City, or a 60,000 capacity seater for football alone, can actually be filled if we start with the big community clubs having their homes and actually now focusing more on football. We pay 12,000 per day to train.
That's
on a rainy season like now, I'm sure all these grounds will not be available. We can only maybe access the Kasarani Sports Annex, where we pay 40,000 per session to train.
Even as we talk about this, Shikanda, one question that fans keep asking, and this has been the picture since 1964 when the club was founded, is the issue of financial accountability within the club. The monies you get from title sponsors or shirt sponsors, the little you realize from gate collection, the Ingwe fan believe there's no accountability, and probably this a turn-off to some of the corporates. What are you doing as the club boss to ensure that going forward, Leopards are not caught in this?
Sila, I can tell you without any fear of any contradiction, that's an excuse from fans who don't want to participate or to take their responsibility, and corporates who are running away from responsibility. There is no way you can tell somebody to account for money which is not there. Let me start with the current situation. I get 60 million from Betika. The budget to run FC Leopards, optimally, is 120 million.
In a year.
In a year. So this 60 million, first and foremost, it is not enough. I will have to dig deep in my pocket. The National Executive Committee will have to run all over to make sure that they get money.
They plug the 60 million deficit.
We plug that deficit.
And how have you been doing that up to now? Have you been able to do that?
We have managed to do that by maybe cutting a lot of essential costs that we're supposed to be incurring. One, maybe we don't prepare the team well because we have to take shortcuts. Two, you've seen these scenarios of where players are striking, allowances haven't been paid because you're supposed to pay players allowances. You don't have that money. You have to juggle between paying salaries or paying their allowances. So all said and done, and that's why I'm saying FC at 60 was to bring everybody to a standstill, and we shout at the topmost of our voices and on top of the mountain that, guys, ladies and gentlemen, there is a problem where we need to come in and actually sort it. The issue of corporate saying that there is no accountability. Even at times I see the federation being pushed so hard. There's so much accountability because our offices are open. If you want to come in and look at our books, you are welcome. But people keep on. There's so much corruption in football. There's so much corruption in this. Just to have excuses not to invest there. Because we tell them, when we do proposals, we even tell them, pay our players directly. Pay this, take this cost and actually cover it. We want to use itemized budgeting, where there is no exchange of money between AFC Leopards and the sponsors. But everybody runs away from that. Oh, you know, with football, there's corruption.
Probably done. I think the corporates want to see a professional, well-run unit. And I believe if that's the case, they'll just fall over themselves to come and associate with the club's logo or emblem. Now, you've talked in the last 2 weeks of going corporate. Maybe shed a light. What's the vision you have for Ingwe in this corporate talk you're having, and how soon can you realize it?
Of course, now the hard journey begins. First, our next steps is actually to come up with a work plan on how we are now going to transit from a society model into a corporate model. So we shall have a committee of experts to actually come up with a roadmap to where we want to go. Then in the next 2 months, we have to go back to our funds. Remember, we are still registered under a society model. So we go back to our funds and we assure them, because there are some who are worried that maybe we are selling the club to the rich people of this country.
Did you have actually invested in that? I was going to ask, do you have an investor so far?
There are a number of investors, There are a number of investors who are inquiring what model we want to take. Is it the hybrid model? So we are comparing notes, and we'll go back to our members and actually shed light on the type of model we want to adopt, so that at the end of the day, when we come to our AGM in June, every member should actually have been briefed, or we have done enough civic education to tell them where the club needs to go from after FC at 60. We are looking at FC at 60 and beyond. So the beyond is where we are saying we have been having so many basic problems.
Basic problems, and that's why I'm a doubting Thomas, and I believe so are many of them.
I can see it in your face.
Yeah. 60 years, this is the oldest club in the country. Go across the borders, and you've been there severally. We've been there with you. Look at Simba, those are your peers. Look at Yanga, those are your peers. They are not struggling with the basic things, as you call them. What we've seen in Kenya are clubs, Gor, Shabana, Ingwe, running around with begging bowl, so to speak, to saidia hapa, to saidia hapa. Yesterday, President Ruto gave 10 million. Some time back, it was President Kenyatta. The club bus actually has to be donated by a politician. So it's always been, kuna shida hapa, let's person ABC come in and bail us out. That's not the situation at Simba, at Yanga, who are even now building clubhouses for their players.
Swila,
these are your peers.
That was the situation at Simba and Yanga.
Right.
So they took that bold step to move to the next level. And I can tell you, the Yanga Simba story just turned the page just the other day. And if you look at the Yanga Simba story, in fact, it is about individuals. It's not even about corporates. It's about an individual, a billionaire, actually investing in the club, and the funds actually support or they actually patronize his products, So we are trying to look maybe at a better system. If you look at our economy, it's stronger than Tanzania. And when you see Tanzania, Zambia paying their players 500,000, 1 million Kenya shillings, you tell yourself, where are we? So our story is basic, We want to transit. And why we did FC at 60, we wanted the doubting Thomases to even know their roles. For example, I know by default you're a Gor Mahia fan, but if I ask you, how much have you invested in Gor Mahia in terms of time? No, I'm just saying by default. No, I'm just saying. You see, we have very many people who just make noise. Money is being squandered. Nothing is happening. That's why when I envisaged to do FC at 60.
Yeah.
I wanted all of us to stop. Let Dan Shikanda reflect, what have I done for FC Leopards? Let that person who criticizes the most just reflect within himself, what have I done for FC? So now going forward, we want to come up with a blueprint of what we need to do as a club, including the fans, and I hope, including the corporates.
And I hope that blueprint won't just gather dust like we've seen with the most blueprints in this country. This is a beautiful conversation. We would want to love it more and more, but because of time, probably before you go.
You said 3 hours.
Yeah, before we go, probably done. 20, how many years since you won the league title? 1990 to date? Is it 25 years?
26 years.
26 years. Yes. Why is that the case? Is it changing?
That is
Every
the case.
season we are told it is our term, it is our term.
I don't think that's... It's an interesting scenario. Let me use the word interesting sarcastically. You know, you cannot win the league if everybody is not on board. My journey at this club started with actually Trucha when we brought him. And he had a very good plan for the club. Few months down the line, not few months, 1 or 2 months down the line, of course, everybody is an enemy of himself. Trucha left. We brought Osems. Osems again tried to, with very difficult circumstances, he managed to build a team. Again, everybody is an enemy of himself. It backfired. So we brought in Trucha. We shall guard whatever we are trying to do jealously, seriously, that we need to turn this page. We shall turn it if all of us read from the same script.
Everybody reads from the same script. Finally, I want you to look into that camera and, of course, make a blow. No, make a blow, a pledge rather, to the Ingwe Nation, what they should expect in the next 2 years under your leadership. You have a minute to do that.
I'll be in office for the next 1 year. What we must do is put structures in place. There are no structures. Yes, people will say 4 years down the line, why are they not structures? Because I don't want to talk about the other 56 years. I want to talk about the 4 years I've been in charge. The first 2 years have been crazy with COVID and lack of sponsorship. But now we are actually getting somewhere with what we have been planning, what we've been having in our strategic plan. And at the end of the day, I can tell you, after our next steps, when we transit from the social model to the corporate model, we want everyone to be involved to make this happen. The league is not won by players alone. The league is won with all of us, starting from the cabinet sports secretary all the way to that small supporter, like Swila, like Eshitera, like Zita, like everyone.
That's Dr. Dan Shikanda speaking to us here on Sporty Monday. And of course, this conversation can go on and on. Unfortunately, we have to cut it short in the interest of time. Dr. we thank you for making time to grace this program. And of course, we'll be keeping you to account, whether you attend this or not. So we hope to have you here again, just to review.
I'll keep everybody into account to make sure it happens. It's not about an individual, it's about a collective responsibility. All of us.
All of us.
Yes.
Thank you, Dr. This is Sporty Monday, and of course, we are taking a short commercial break. Don't go away, because when we return, Michael Olunga hitting 2 in Lilongwe. What of Kenya Cup? Cabras versus KCB. How will that pan out? Stay tuned.